There's a silence that numbs, and there's a silence that stirs. You know the difference, because you're in it now. This stillness doesn't feel like absence. It feels like something holding its breath. Like the hush before a sky breaks open. Like the earth waiting for first rain. It's not empty. It's full of something unseen. And that fullness, it's what's keeping you awake at night. Not fear, not worry, but the weight of something approaching and not yet spoken. You haven't lost your way. You're standing in a sacred pause. Not delayed, not forgotten, but intentionally held. This stillness isn't quiet because nothing's happening. It's quiet because heaven is arranging the unseen. Maybe you've been praying for a sign, or asking why everything feels suspended like the world moved on without you. But friend, what if this isn't punishment? What if it's positioning? The silence you feel, it might be God's way of saying, be still. Something holy is forming. You don't have to force your way forward. You don't have to fill the quiet with noise. Just breathe. Let this stillness do its work. Because this isn't just any silence. It's sacred, and it means He's preparing something big. Stay with me. Let's walk this silence together. There's more to uncover, and it begins right here. Somewhere between the ending and the beginning, 0, 6, you've been placed. Not rushed, not dismissed, but held. It's a strange place to stand this in between. You can still feel the weight of what ended. And yet, there's no clarity about what's coming next. It's not that you've stopped believing. You're just tired of waiting without direction. Suspended between used to be and not yet. This pause, it's not a punishment. It's not divine silence as rejection. It's craftsmanship, a holy architecture being built behind the veil. God knows you don't need quick answers. You need alignment. He knows you don't want noise. You want truth that steadies your soul. So He's holding you gently but deliberately between what was and what will be. This is the threshold, the doorway between history and destiny. And thresholds are sacred. They require presence, stillness, trust. You haven't missed your moment. He's layering your entry with purpose. And when it comes, it won't be rushed. It will be ready. So breathe again. You are not forgotten. You're being held for something, heaven-timed. And if this space, this holy in-between speaks to you, you don't have to walk it alone. This channel was created for souls like yours. Stay close with us at Calm Called, so when the next whisper of peace comes, it finds you ready to receive it. Subscribe now, and let's walk this unfolding together. 1. 4. There's a certain kind of ache that doesn't come from loss, but from expansion. It's not the ache of something being taken. It's the ache of something being made room for. And if you're honest, that's what this season feels like. Like your soul is being stretched. Like everything familiar is just a little too small. But nothing new has arrived to take its place. You're not broken. You're being made ready. Readiness isn't always a feeling. Sometimes it's an ache, a tension deep in the spirit that says, there's more, I just can't see it yet. God doesn't always prepare you with clarity. Sometimes He prepares you with discomfort. Because when you're truly being expanded, you outgrow what once fit before the new thing appears. That's why it hurts. Not because you're failing, but because you're forming. This isn't aimless pain. It's intentional. It's sacred space being carved within you, so that when the promise comes, you'll be able to carry it, not collapse under it. And if you've been feeling the ache, the stretching, the waiting that almost splits you open, know this: you are closer than you think, and you are not alone. Stay here. Something holy is forming inside this ache. This is where the shift begins, where presence enters the pain, and where silence begins to speak. We often ask for answers. We pray for clarity, 3, direction, breakthrough. But what if God isn't just preparing the answer for you? He's preparing you for the answer? Sometimes the delay isn't about logistics. It's about capacity, not about timing, but identity. The blessing you're praying for has weight, and God in His mercy won't place it on shoulders not yet strong enough to carry it. That's not punishment. It's protection. We think we're ready when we're tired of waiting. But spiritual readiness is not about impatience. It's about alignment, about becoming the kind of vessel that doesn't just receive a gift, but sustains it. And that takes transformation. Not surface-level change, but soul-deep formation. The kind of inner work that only silence, stillness, and surrender can accomplish. Look back for a moment. You've already changed in ways you didn't realize. You respond differently now. You see deeper. You pray not just for speed, but for wisdom. This is growth. This is maturity. This is God preparing you not just for the thing, but for the impact it will bring. Because when the answer comes, it won't just bless you, it will test you. And that's why He's shaping your character, refining your discernment, and softening your heart in the quiet. You are not who you were. Even if nothing around you has changed yet, something within you has. 6. That inner shift, that's the preparation. That's the formation. And it matters more than the destination itself. So, if you feel like you're being undone, maybe you are, but only to be rebuilt into someone who can carry glory with grace. Not everything delayed is denied. Sometimes it's divine pacing because the answer requires a different version of you. And you're becoming that version right now. There are things God can only say in silence. Not because He's hiding, but because noise drowns the subtleties of truth. You see, revelation doesn't always come wrapped in thunder. Sometimes, it's a whisper inside your spirit that you'd miss in any other season. That's what makes this stillness sacred. It strips away distraction. It unmasks your soul. And it invites you into the kind of listening that only longing can produce. You wouldn't be this open if everything made sense. You wouldn't be this tender if life had gone to plan. You wouldn't be this available to the Spirit if all your prayers had been answered quickly. There's something about loss, delay, and silence that cracks us open to deeper wisdom. Not because suffering is holy in itself, but because it makes room for what we used to avoid. Maybe God has been trying to speak this truth to you for a long time. But now you're finally quiet enough to hear it. You are not alone. You are not forgotten, never present. 4. And this silence? It's not empty. It's precise. Sometimes God allows everything else to fall silent, so the one voice that matters can finally be heard. And maybe, just maybe, you needed to slow down long enough to realize He was never far. Let that settle in. This stillness isn't wasted time. It's divine conversation. It's revelation by invitation. You're hearing things now that your old pace would have skipped. You're sensing truth that distraction never allowed room for. You're learning to listen beneath the noise, to trust without evidence, to be still and still believe. That alone is a miracle. There's a kind of weariness that settles in right before the breakthrough. It's not loud. It doesn't shout with despair. It whispers in fatigue. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe this isn't going anywhere. Maybe I misunderstood the promise. But here's what's rarely said. The moment you feel furthest from the promise is often the moment you're standing right at its edge. Because silence has a way of distorting time. It stretches every second into a question mark. And waiting can feel like wandering even when you're exactly where you're meant to be. What if this isn't the middle? What if it's the threshold? Not a delay, but a doorway. You've done more than you think. You've grown in ways you can't measure. And God has been moving even when nothing around you looked different. 6. He's been adjusting timing, shifting people, preparing places, but also softening your heart, sharpening your hearing, rooting you deeper in trust. You're not behind. You're not late. You're not being passed over. You're closer than it feels. But the final stretch often comes without warning. It's quiet, subtle, not always marked by signs but by surrender. And maybe that's why this moment feels disorienting. Because what's next is so close, it requires stillness rather than striving. You don't need another confirmation. You need peace to carry you over the final step. This silence, though painful, is not passive. It's the final preparation before the shift. The next season won't just appear, it will emerge. And when it does, you'll recognize why it took time, why it required silence, why you needed to come to the end of your own strength, to step fully into His presence. So stay steady. You are not adrift. You are aligned. And what's coming is closer than you know. We are taught to look for signs, fleeces, confirmations, moments that say, yes, go now. But what if the greatest faith isn't shown by stepping when the sign appears, but by standing still when it doesn't? There's a kind of waiting that isn't resignation, it's reverence. A holy expectancy that says, even without proof, I trust your presence. It's not dark. That's where you are now. Not because you've failed to discern, but because you've been invited deeper. God knows your heart longs for clarity, but sometimes clarity becomes a crutch. And He wants you to walk by something greater, trust that isn't dependent on visible cues. Can you wait without proof, without signs, without needing a miracle to remind you He's still near? This isn't to test your worth. It's to awaken your awareness, to shift your sight from external signs to internal stillness. Because what He's building in you isn't just a response to this moment. It's a foundation for the next. And that foundation must be trust. The kind of trust that prays, even if nothing moves today, I still believe you are. Even in the silence, I know you're working. Even now, I trust you. You don't have to manipulate peace. You don't have to pressure heaven for updates. You can rest, even in the unknowing. Because the silence is not an absence of activity, it's an invitation to intimacy. Faith without signs is not blind, it's brave. And you're walking it now. So breathe. Lean into the waiting. Don't fear the quiet, honor it. The one who called you does not need to repeat himself to remain faithful, and neither do you. Divine timing is not static. It's not a date on a calendar. It's a rhythm, a pulse, a movement. 0, 7. God doesn't operate in our timelines. He operates in alignment. He moves when hearts, people, places, and purposes converge. That means what seems delayed may simply be sinking, not stalled but orchestrated. Think of a symphony, dozens of instruments waiting for their moment. If one enters too soon, the whole piece loses its harmony. But when every note arrives in its place, beauty unfolds, and heaven plays in perfect time. You're not late. You're part of a divine composition. God's timing has a pulse, and it beats differently than yours. Sometimes slow, sometimes sudden, but always precise, always full of meaning. The challenge is, you don't always feel the rhythm when you're tired, when life feels stalled, when the silence outlasts your certainty. But the rhythm is there, and it's moving you, even when you don't recognize the steps. Sometimes, trust looks like dancing without hearing the music yet, just sensing that something sacred is playing, even if faintly. Look at your own journey. How many times did things fall into place, only after delay? How often did closed doors protect you? How many times did not yet mean not this way? That wasn't coincidence. It was cadence, the pulse of heaven saying, wait, now, here. So instead of pushing for the outcome, align with the rhythm. 0, 5. Move when it moves. Rest when it pauses. And listen, because God's timing isn't random, it's revelatory. The stillness you're in now, it might be the space between two sacred beats, a breath before the shift. Don't rush it. Don't resent it. Feel it. Follow it. Let it lead you. Because divine timing has a pulse, and it's bringing you into harmony with heaven. The night has never meant the absence of God, only the absence of what we can see. And when it gets dark, when the answers grow silent and the path disappears, the mind begins to whisper lies. Maybe the promise expired. Maybe I missed it. Maybe the silence is God's withdrawal. But darkness is not divine dismissal. It is divine depth. It is where faith sheds performance and becomes presence. The promise doesn't fade in the dark. It becomes purified, tested, refined by unseen hands. Think of a seed. The moment it is buried, it disappears from sight, but not from purpose. Its deepest work happens in silence, in darkness, below the surface, where no one can cheer or measure it. And yet, that's where life begins. That's where roots grow. That's where the future is formed. You, too, are being rooted. And the night you're in, it hasn't canceled the promise, it's cultivating it. There are moments when your spirit whispers what your mind can't grasp. 0, 6. When something in you says yes, even when logic says, wait. You feel it in stillness, in prayer, in the quiet moments between questions, a knowing that's deeper than information. That's not imagination. That's the Holy Spirit speaking softly, steadily, beneath the noise of doubt. You've sensed this before. That inner pull, that subtle stirring that you couldn't explain, but couldn't ignore. It's not that you knew the details. It's that your spirit recognized the direction, Long before clarity, there was resonance, and that's the gift of spiritual knowing. It bypasses the mind's demand for control and anchors you in trust. Yes, your logic is useful. God gave you reason, it's not the enemy. But your logic is limited by sight, and the Spirit sees beyond. So, what you're feeling right now, that holy tension, that internal yes, don't dismiss it. This isn't about hype or emotion. It's about a quiet witness in your soul that tells you this silence isn't random. This moment is weighty. Something is shifting even if I can't name it yet. God often speaks to your spirit first because that's where trust grows deepest. And later, your life catches up with what your soul already knew. Think about it. Haven't there been moments you sensed something before it happened? A season ending? A door opening? A release inside you that came before the change around you? 8. That wasn't coincidence. It was divine preparation. Your spirit is tuned to heaven, even in silence, even in stillness, even now. So lean into that inner knowing. Don't rush it. Don't demand it prove itself. Just stay open and let it guide you gently forward, because the spirit within you already knows the way. We spend so much of life waiting for the promise, hoping, praying, longing for the breakthrough. But what if the preparation wasn't a detour? What if it was the promise in disguise? All this time, you've been looking for the arrival, but God has been building something in you that's even more sacred than what you were waiting for. Because the real promise isn't just the outcome. It's the becoming. It's who you became when no one clapped, when no one saw, when it was just you and God and silence. That inner strength, that deeper trust, that soft resilience that wasn't there before, that is the blessing. The world celebrates arrivals, but heaven honors the hidden seasons, the soul that stayed, the heart that healed slowly, the spirit that chose stillness over striving. Look at what's formed in you. Patience that doesn't need evidence, faith that survives the night, love that doesn't demand but receives. That's not just survival. 3. That's sacred growth. Maybe the promise isn't a thing to get, but a place to stand, a way of seeing, a life aligned with heaven's rhythm. So now, even if the outcome hasn't arrived yet, you can rest, because something greater has 6. You've become steady, rooted, available to God in a way you never were before. And that means the silence was not wasted. The ache was not in vain. The stillness was never empty. It was filled with formation, and formation is the promise, wrapped in patience. So take this moment, breathe, let the weight lift. You are no longer just waiting. You are witnessing the promise unfolding in you. If you're still here, still watching, still listening from within the quiet, this blessing is for you. You who didn't run when it got quiet. You who kept showing up in the silence. You who felt the ache and stayed anyway. Heaven sees you. Not just your faith, but your fatigue. Not just your hope, but your hesitation. And still, you're being held. So let these words rest over your soul like dew on dry ground. Let them enter the places where your strength ran thin. Let them remind you, waiting well is an act of worship. Here's the blessing. May your stillness become sacred. May your breath slow enough to feel the rhythm of heaven. May your trust rise not because of what you see, but because of who holds what you cannot. P07. May the silence speak louder than your fear. May the ache not harden you, but deepen you. May your spirit hear what your mind still can't explain, and follow it anyway. And when the moment comes, when what was once invisible becomes undeniable, may you walk through it with quiet authority, knowing you were prepared for this. Even now, you are not late. You are not missing anything. You are not unseen. You are being kept. In timing, in truth, in grace. The one who began this quiet work in you will be faithful to complete it, not in haste, but in wholeness. So breathe, rest. You don't need to strive to stay aligned. You are already inside the rhythm, and it will carry you. And if this journey spoke to something sacred in you, if this silence felt familiar, then stay close. This space, calm, called, exists for those like you, for souls who are done with hurry, who crave something holy, slow, and true, for spirits who sense that God is still speaking, even when it's quiet. So, when the next whisper comes, let it find you here. Subscribe now, and let's keep walking this unfolding together.